a few things before you start. So right above this voice chat, there's a special event chat. If you guys can, if you guys want to watch it, just check the YouTube link. And then Mika has a few classes, and she's a really great teacher. I took her class, and it was so hard, but I learned a lot. Um, all the information's there. Her IG is there as well. And yes, thanks Mika for hosting this event. Can't wait to see what you do.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. Thank you for being here with me on this stream. Well, my name is Micaela. I'm an animation director and an executive producer of the studio Bellolandia in Argentina. And I'm also developing my own uh, movie projects and stuff. And well, as Angela just told you, I'm teaching 2 animation classes this March, one for beginners and one for intermediates. And I wanted this demo to be some kind of refreshment about like basic concepts for people who are taking the intermediate class, like things you should really be familiar with. And also, if you're interested in learning animation, these are the basic things I teach during my beginners class. Of course, much more deeper. And well, I first am gonna start showing a little bit of what I do, like an old reel that I have. I'm sorry, I'm lazy. I didn't make one this year. And I also worked on a lot of projects that had NDAs. So for now, this is the thing that I can show you. Let me change my window and I hope you can see it and I hope you like it.
Mika, I can't hear the audio this time.
Oh no. That's weird. It's on the 100%.
Well, I do have a question for you, though. Is it very common for animators to work in such a wide range of styles? Because this is what your reel is showing me. You could basically draw in any style.
Yeah, if you are an animator, it's kind of crucial that you can adapt to almost any style. And because you're gonna be working on a lot of different projects. It's not like you're only be working on your stuff and your style. Of course, you can like be more confident about animating in certain styles. Like for me, I really like more the cartoony and round kind of stuff. But if I have like a job that requires me to animate more like anatomical um, like characters, that's also a skill that you must train because you will get more jobs basically. And if you want to work with like your friends or like you want to join the projects that you really like, you really need to know how to adapt. It's pretty crucial. But I think an important thing for animation is that people think that you really need to be good at drawing to be a good animator, and for me, that's not true. Um, I think you should be able to adapt, but not be exactly great at drawing, because there's a lot of people who doesn't even know how to draw, and they are great animators. For example, like everyone who does motion graphics, they know how to animate like amazingly, and they like most of my friends don't even know how to draw like as they say a stick figure. And same with a lot of friends I have from 3D. They can make some beautiful animations with the 3D characters, but they don't know how to draw. And of course, for 2D, you need to have some sort of base to like for animation, but it's not crucial. It's not like you need to be proficient at drawing before you start animating. You can just start learning the basics and the yeah. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought you. I heard someone.
I think someone just had a echo. I'll try to find them and mute them.
Yeah. That's no problem. No problem. And so it's a little bit of what I'm gonna to show today because I'm gonna show you like the basic things you must know, and I'm not gonna be drawing too much because of course this is live and I can fast forward the video and I can't draw that fast and animation takes time, so I'm just gonna go and do some like tiny little characters, like easy to draw stuff so you can follow along and I don't take too much in the drawing. And you can, if you want, you can even practice along with me. That will be fun. And first of all, before I start with all the basic stuff we're gonna see today, for me these past days I've been doing a thing to loosen up my hand right before I start working, and it's play Gartic Phone on my own. I know it sounds a little bit sad because this is a game that's supposed to be played with a lot of people, but I really like the animation setting that they have. And if you go in the settings, you can change like the turns. I like to take like 5 turns for myself. And the good thing about Gartic Phone is that it just gives you a timing for animating, right? And you don't have to care too much about what you're drawing because you have limited time and you can really see where your animation is going. Like right now, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna put one frame after the other and just try to, like, I don't know, maybe have fun because I think animation is a lot about having fun. There's a lot of people who say, "Oh no, animation is suffering," and I get it. Of course, it is. It's funny to say it, but I think it's important to also have fun. If you enjoy creating stuff and like moving characters, creating stories, I think animation is a great tool for that. And if you're interested in doing it, I think you should try it because you can even do it as a sort of like relaxation thing. Some people draw for like relaxing, and I like to animate silly stuff like this. I don't even, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm having fun. And this is just a really fast way for you to animate something and don't really pay too much attention about what you're doing it. And the cool thing is that the program is gonna basically just loop it on the end. So you will see what you did. And I can go back, like I can see the previous frames. I'm just working with the last frame that I drew. And I'm like, yeah, I think I kind of want this big eye to shoot lasers uh, towards this character. I don't know. And for me, it's a great way to loosen up my hand. and to stop overthinking about what I want to do, because sometimes I just want to animate whatever, or I have an idea but I don't really know how to start. So a lot of people have like the blank page syndrome, I think it's called, and they get scared. They don't know how to start, and they just get blocked and never start, and they never do. They just keep talking about all the things that they want to do and they never start. So I think that to overcome that, you just need to do something and be silly. It's like, I know this is not the greatest drawing I ever did. No, it's fun for me. And then you just click start. Sorry, this is in Spanish, but it's it's not that complicated. And it will show you the frames that you did. And after the last one, it will show you a tiny looping animation of what you did. Of course, it is way more fun when you play with people. Yay!
Cool.
And when you play with people, everyone gets like one frame, so you never really know where the animation is gonna go. Of course, if you play by yourself, you're gonna be like, okay, I think I want to do this, so you carry on yourself. But if you play with people, it's way more fun. But at the same time, this just took me like, I don't know, less than 5 minutes, and I have a cute, funny little animation, and I didn't even have to get any animation software. This is just a web page that you can just go. It's called Gartic Phone, and try it for yourself. It's free. So I think it's a really fun way to just start. But now
If we
we're
wanted to
gonna.
draw along with you right now, is there any way we could use Photoshop, or do we have to use Toon Boom Harmony? Because I don't know if everybody has that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can use whatever animation software, or even if it's not an animation software like Photoshop, if you can get the timeline, that's the most important thing. I You basically just need to be able to put one drawing after the other, and you can do that in Procreate and Photoshop. I think there's a bunch of free animation softwares, but I don't remember right now. And But yeah, you can follow along in any software that you have, because I'm just gonna show like the really most basic stuff that you need to know if you want to go into the intermediate class, and like things you will learn in a much more deeper way if you sign to the beginners class. So first, the principle, because there's 12 principles in animation that are super important, but here I'm going to talk just about a few of them, because those are the ones that I think are more important and the ones that I use every single day in my work. So of course, the first time is timing and spacing. Yay. Some people use timing to refer to both timing and space and spacing, but for me, it's important to separate them because they really mean different things. So, timing is basically the amount of time we want to take to go from one point to the other. Just to make this circle a little less boring, I'm gonna put a face on it and make it a cat, because I'm not a furry, but Angela thinks so. So it's gonna be a cat. So I want this cat face to go to the other side, to the right side of the screen in, let's say, 1 second, right? And But how much is 1 second in animation? Right now, I'm working on 24 frames per second, which means that I will have 24 drawings until I reach a second. So in 1 second, my cat face, is gonna go from the left side to the right side. And right now it's just popping to the next frame. It's not really moving. So this is where spacing comes in. Spacing is basically the distance between the drawings when you get from one pose to the other. It's really important that you think about this spacing because whatever you put the drawings is gonna change the animation completely. So, for example, if I start moving my little cat face the same distance, this is the onion scan that lets you see the previous drawings and the next drawings, right? And by using that, oops, I can see how much. Why is doing that for me? I can see how much I'm moving my little guy, and I'm trying to keep the spacing of every drawing equal. So if I do that, you will see how this guy is gonna move. I know what, sometimes it just picks up the ears and the face and not the actual head. Okay, so now you see how the cat is moving from one side to the other, but it's pretty dull. It's not really interesting. It's just really going from one point to the other with it's just moving. We could do that like without knowing anything about animation, but it looks like eh. So this is where spacing comes in. If you change the space between these drawings, you can make something much more interesting. For example, I'm going to duplicate this layer so you can see the difference. And let me change this. There we go. Boop. For example, if you want to make this cat face starts going to the right slowly, you should put the drawings closer together. The closer the drawings are, the slower the animation may seem. So instead of putting this little cat here, I'm just gonna make it way closer to the first drawing. And this one as well. And I will just keep making the drawings get closer to each other. I don't know why it does that. And it's fun. I can move it with the arrows. So now you will see, I don't want to change my timing because my timing basically tells me that this cat starts here and it ends here in this amount of frames. So I don't want to change that. I just want to change the spacing without touching my timing. So I'm just changing my distance between the drawings But I'm keeping the last cat on the same place, so I don't change the timing. This is why the timing and spacing is different, because one basically tells me how, how long I want the animation to take, and the other just changes the way it moves. I'm gonna put this here so you can see the difference between the upper one and the lower one. You see, now the one in the bottom moves completely different. Whoops. You see how it starts really slow and then it gets faster? That's why the drawings on the first drawings are really close together, but the last drawings are separate from each other. So the closer the drawings are, the slower it seems, and sorry, and as you can see, if they are further apart, the animation seems faster. So this is basically just timing and spacing. The cat is getting to the other side in the exact amount of time. I am using the exact amount of frames to get from one side to the other. I'm just changing the spacing to make the animation a little bit more interesting. So what I did right in the second is as you can see in the onion skin, I made the drawings gradually get more separate from each other. So I start slow and I end up fast. This is called an ease out in animation. And you can do exactly the same, but instead of starting slow and ending fast, you can start fast and end slow. So I'm just gonna duplicate the first cat so I can show you the difference. And for example, I want this drawing to be farther apart from the first one. And I will just change the spacing to get the drawings closer as I get to the final frame. Why is it doing that? And now that I'm closer, I'll just keep smooshing them together. And there we go. And as you can see, it starts fast, but it ends slowly. And I'm just touching the spacing. I'm not even caring at all about the drawing itself. It could be whatever you want, a circle, a square, a box, a full character. I'm just messing with the spacing to make the animation a little bit more interesting. And the when it starts low, it's called an ease out, and when it ends slow, like the last one, it's called an ease in. These are just fancy names for this kind of spacing. It's you can call them whatever you want. It's not like you need to know these specific names for this, but when you're working, maybe your boss or your director will be like, try to ease out the beginning or try to ease in the end, make it smoother. I don't know. It's just some fancy words that you need to be familiar with, especially when getting feedback from people, but you can just do it without even knowing how it's called. I'm just telling you so it's easier for you to understand. And I can even show you all the spacings for all the cats. I'm gonna erase this so you don't get confused. So it's basically the same drawing, and I'm just messing with the spacing, and you can get really different outcomes from just playing around with the spacing, and I think that's pretty cool. Then the other concept I want you to know is that let me do another layer. Don't be like me. Please name your layers. Um, I'm just being really lazy. But the next thing I want to talk about is anticipation. So you see these little animations of this cat. They look a little bit robotic, right? There's no a lot of life inside this cat face. It's just static cat face with little to no emotion. And to make it seem a little bit more natural, we add an anticipation. An anticipation is basically an action before an action. So I'm gonna take this and make another layer. I'm gonna name it just not to be so lazy. So we have our little cat here, right? And we want it to go right here, like we've been doing. But before just making it go from one side to the other, we're gonna do a little anticipation. And the best way to do an anticipation is to move your character towards the opposite side of your action. So if my cat is moving to the right, the anticipation will be to the left. Not too much, of course, because we don't want to take the attention away from the actual action, that is our cat going to the right. So I'm just going to add a couple of frames of this cat going to the left a little bit. I don't want it to be too much, so I'm just going to move it a little bit. And I think with 2 frames, it's going to be fine. This is just like a really fast example. So now that we did our anticipation, our cat went to the left a little bit. Now we can start moving it to the right. And usually when you do an anticipation, you can play around with the spacing much more. For example, you can make it shoot to the other side, so you want to make it go really fast at first, so the drawings are going to be farther apart from each other. And maybe you want it to get to the other side slower. So you will have to make those drawings closer together. And the more things you add to your animation, the more you will have to play around with the timing or add more drawings. Because like right now, I think I'm getting a little bit short with my timing because I want to make the last part a little bit slower. So I'm just gonna add a couple more frames to make it a little bit smoother. And something like that. Let's see how it works. And now my cat has a tiny anticipation, which helps the movement, helps the overall movement of the face. It makes it seem a little bit more natural. Of course, we know that it's just the same drawing. When you start animating more complex stuff, you can start adding things to it, which is the thing that I'm gonna do now. Now that I have my anticipation of my little kitty, I can, for example, say, okay, maybe I don't like how it gets to the other side. I don't want this slow thing. I mean, I don't want the face to get there so slow. I wanted to keep it fast. So what I'm gonna do now is an overshoot. So our next concept is overshoot. This is a little bit like the contrary thing to the anticipation. For an overshoot, you basically go beyond your final frame. So instead of making the drawings get closer to each other at the end, we are gonna make the face go past the last frame. I'm gonna duplicate this so we don't lose it and we can see the differences. So for example, here that the drawings are farther apart from each other, which means that this frame is the fastest one, I want to keep that sense of speed, right? So I'm gonna delete the ending I did there. And if I want to keep the character going fast, I'm gonna keep the drawings farther away from each other. But when we get to the last frame, instead of just stopping there, we're gonna go past it. Just a little bit. I don't want to make it too exaggerated. Of course, it's animation and you can exaggerate things as much as you want. But right now, we're gonna try to keep it as natural as possible. So I'm gonna make it go past that last point. And once I'm happy with that, I can make it go back until I get to my last drawing. And this is gonna look like this. It's a more natural way for you to stop your animation. It looks a little bit better than just stopping your character at some point. It's like you go past that, and by just adding a few frames, you make it look a little bit more natural. So for you to see the difference, I'm just gonna move this guy here. And I think animation, it's all in the details. It's these tiny tools, these tiny principles that you're gonna use over and over for whatever you animate. It doesn't matter if you're just animating a circle or you're animating a person or an animal or whatever. These tiny things are what's gonna make the animation a little bit better. They're gonna make it pop up and it's gonna be more interesting. So the next thing is the follow through. Let me make just right here with my terrible handwriting. And so the next thing I want you to know is follow through. Follow through is basically all the elements that are gonna follow the main action. For example, we have this cat here, right? We have our little guy with the overshoot, and everything we wanted to have, but we want to add even a more natural sense to it. So what I can do is I can use the ears as a follow through, or I can maybe add a body with some legs and some arms, and the legs and the arms are gonna be my elements that are gonna follow the main action. So I'm gonna first, it's not gonna move too much. Whoops. So I'm just gonna take it and copy it so it's faster. So right now, my character is not moving too much. So the follow through is not gonna make the other elements move too much, but they are always gonna try to be as close to the previous frame as possible. So for example, these legs and these arms are gonna try to be closer to the previous frame. And I'm moving them like that because of course the legs are attached to the body and it's not like the legs are gonna move from this point. Just the weight of the leg, it's gonna move from this pivot point to the previous frame. And we're just gonna keep doing that. And the more our character moves, the more affected the other elements are gonna be. So right now my character moved much more than the previous one. So the legs and the arms are gonna try to be closer to the previous. And now that it completely moved to the other side, this is when we start having more fun. Like we can move the legs and the arms much more because it's like when you are trying to pull, I don't know, like string or something. You will always, if you grab a string with your hand and you move around, the string will try to follow your hand, but it's not going to have this exact same timing. It's going to have some resistance. So it's going to make the same path, but in a slightly different time. The same is going to happen to whatever parts of the body of the character you're animating. Of course, the more things you add to it, the more complex it's going to get. But for now, we're just going to make this tiny and simple arms and legs for me to show you. And you can play around with how much you want them to just move around. Like right now, my character is going really fast. So it's like the arms and legs can't keep up with the main action. I'm also making them like super like they're kind of they're kind of dead. I mean, they don't have too much strength on its own. It's like they are just letting themselves be carried by the motion of the body. But now that my character is slowing down, now my arms and my legs are gonna start to catch up. Like for example, maybe I don't want to move this arm too much, and this arm that was completely following the previous one, it's gonna start catching up with the movement. Same with the legs. I don't want them to be like the previous one because my character is starting to slow down. So now that we're getting to the end, my arms and legs can catch up to the rest of the movement much more. But the thing is here that they will also catch up on their own time. You will see in this frame that the character is not going to the right anymore, it's moving to the left. So what happens to the arms and the legs? They try to catch up, but in a completely different timing. So they are gonna be moving towards the other side because for them, that movement of going to the right and then going to the left is not the same as the main body. The main body is already going to the left, but the arms and legs need to catch up, so they are still going to the right, even though the main body is already coming back. So the limbs are gonna follow. They're gonna be attached to the body. You know, they're not moving because it's like the articulations that you can actually just moving away from your body, but the rest of the limbs, of the parts of the limbs are gonna move. So by trying to catch up, they're just gonna keep moving to the right and then try to slow down with the rest of the body. So now that I got, whoops, I don't want to see so many frames, so I'm just making the onion skin a little bit shorter. So for example, now the legs are gonna start to go to the left as the body is slowing down. But now the thing is that I reach my last frame of my animation. And it's not like I can make the limbs just stop right there, like the head does, because the timing of my follow through elements, the limbs, is not the same. They are running behind by a couple of frames. They are still catching up to the face. So I will have to add a few more frames just for the limbs. No, and this is what it makes animation more interesting. The parts of your characters are not moving at the same speed. They're not moving with the same timing altogether because you don't want to have a complete still image, like we did before. We just had like the face and everything moved at the same time with the ears, the eyes, the mouth, and it doesn't feel too natural. So that's why when you add more things to your character, it's fun to just play around to see the timing you want to give to those parts. And I'm just gonna add a couple more frames so my limbs can catch up. And since my body is completely stopped, the limbs are the only ones that are moving. And I don't want them to go too fast. So I'm just gonna make them settle in a couple more frames to make this animation a little bit more natural. And yeah, I think this is gonna work. Yeah, something like that. Let's see let's see where we got. Hey. Now you see the arms are following the main body and the main action, but they have all their own timing to catch up to the first movement. And by adding this, you will add much more natural feeling to your animations. And as you saw, I didn't even drew too much. I just moved the same drawings around, and the character already feels a little bit more alive. And I think a great way for you to understand this is to grab something from real life. If you have like a ball with a string or some cables or like any plushie that may have, I don't know, like hair or a tail or whatever, and just move it around and try to see how the elements that are trying to follow the main, like the body of the plushie, move around. Because basically, animation, takes it takes everything from real life. So the more you pay attention to real life, the more you will understand these basic things for animations. Because we want to make a believable animation. So by studying real life, we are actually studying animation. It's not like you have never seen something like this before because you never study animation. You you already saw it in real life. It's just you have to pay attention to that. Like for example, I don't know when the wind blows the leaves of the tree, like the main body of the tree trunk is not moving, but the leaves are. They are moving with the wind. They are moving with the waves of the wind. There's a lot of things that you will have to pay attention in real life to understand in animation. And we're gonna take this cute little cat and move to the next concept. And the next concept I want to show you is squash and stretch. Whoops. Squash and stretch. Yay! Sorry if I'm going too fast. I know I don't have too much time, but if you want to learn about these concepts in a much more friendly amount of time, please take the beginner's class. This is more like a refreshment for people who want to take the intermediate classes. Like these are the things you should be familiar with. And these are all things that you can just practice by doing like the tiny things I'm doing. You don't even have to do a super great and complex animation. It's just knowing the concept and putting it I'm gonna name this layer
I
Quadrant
just wanted to add
Stretch.
because I took Mika's first round of class. Although it says beginner and she's showing you some basic functions right now, the assignments are pretty challenging, and they turn out to be really great portfolio pieces. I can link the art station with the student work, and it was very informative, and I learned so much. So I'll drop it into the special event chat.
Thanks, Angela. uh, yeah, the homeworks for both classes are pretty free. I mean, it's up to you to choose how much complexity you want to add to your homework. You can do just a circle, like the homework assignment is pretty simple per se, but you can just add more and more to your character and make it more and more complex. That's completely up to you. And I think it's a good thing to just refresh these basic concepts because I really use them every single day when I work. It's not that I don't think about timing and spacing and ease in and ease out when I animate because it's right there. It's all the things that I have to have complete, like I need to have them present in my mind to animate whatever I want. So yeah, just know that basic doesn't mean like boring. You can do amazing things with just the most basic stuff. So the next concept is squash and stretch. It's just a way to make your character feel like a little bit more squishy and not so stiff. Because right now, as we've been doing, like our character feels pretty stiff. It's like, yeah, the head is the same at all times, the body too. While the arms and legs are just lines, so it's not too annoying. But if they had volume, we'll be like, yeah, it's not completely natural. So wash and stretch, you can use it to make your character more fluid and a little bit more tangible. And you can also make the volumes look more real. So for example, we have our tiny cat here, right? And I want to make him jump. I want to make him go upwards and then go down again. First, I'm gonna need an anticipation to make the movement more real. And I think we can add squash to an anticipation to make the volumes really feel more squishy. So for example, the head, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna squash it a little bit. The important thing about squash and stretch is that you have to maintain the volume. You see how my head is getting off the side, but I'm also making it less um, high. So the volume is the same. I'm just squashing it. It's just like I'm taking the head and I'm squashing it, but the volume is always the same. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the body and the legs. I'm just gonna bend them a little bit and I can change the expression to make my tiny cat feel more alive. I can even lower the ears to make him feel like he's really feeling that squash. And I'm gonna squash him even more just to exaggerate. Remember, animation is exaggeration and it's a lot about having fun. So I'm just gonna squash these kitty, poor little kitty. And don't forget to keep the feet in the same place. Don't move those because these are the place where your character constant. If you move it around, it's not gonna be realistic. So now that we made our anticipation and we add wash, we can make it jump really fast. If you try to jump, you will see that first you start really fast and you start getting slower at the end when you're at your highest point because gravity is trying to pull you down. But for now, I'm gonna make it go super fast and I'm gonna use the stretch for going fast because if I put my character like the way it is right now, it's gonna be too stiff. So instead of that, I'm gonna stretch it. So it's basically the opposite of the squash. It's taking the same volumes and stretching, and I'm exaggerating the legs and the arms a little bit because they are just lines, so I can play around with that much more. And I'm gonna use the ears as a follow through, so they are gonna be pointing down for now until I got to the highest point. I'm gonna delete this cat. I use this just as reference so I don't um, mess with the volumes too much. And I'm gonna do the same for the next frame. I'm gonna still be stretching my cat, but not as much as the previous frame. The faster you go, the more you can stretch a character. It's just a perception of the eye. Like the faster something goes, the more distortion it can have. Because it's not gonna be annoying to the eye because if something is moving really fast, it's not like you can see it too clearly. So you can play around with the distortion, you can really stretch it. And I think stretching a character is also really useful to connect to two frames that are way farther apart from each other and to help make the animation like connect itself. So I'm just gonna stretch my cat a little bit less than the previous one. And the arms and legs are also following the body, so they are also going to be pointing down for now. And we're getting to the highest point. So my drawings are going to start getting closer together. And I don't want to keep stretching my cat, so I'm just going to go back to the previous proportions. But now my ears and my arms and legs are gonna start catching up with the body like we saw in the previous exercise. And my tiny cat is getting to the highest point, so it's gonna get slower because gravity is trying to pull him down. And I want to play a little bit with the arms and the legs as they catch up with the movement of the body. And this is gonna be my highest point. Maybe something like that. Oh no, I'm running out of time. Sorry guys. I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
It looks great. It looks great.
So I want the ears, the arms, and the legs fully catching up with the movement of the body. And now I'm gonna start to make my cat go down. So as my character goes down, you can keep playing around with the follow through elements, like the arms and the legs. They can be pointing up. And now the same concept applies to when he goes down. Like I can stretch it when it gets fast, and I can squash it at the end when he reaches the floor. So I'm gonna use this as reference just to not mess with my volumes too much. I'm gonna start stretching that kitty. And I want the legs to keep pointing upwards. And you could reuse your previous frames if you want, but you have to be careful because when you reuse previous drawings and you play your animation, it's gonna look weird. It's gonna be like this person got a little bit lazy and is reusing the the drawings. But if you don't want to draw too much, here's some tips that it will help you not look as lazy as you are. For example, just don't keep it in the same place. Just move it around a little bit, and of course change all the elements that are not moving in the way that they should. Like, for example, the ears should be pointed up, same with the arms, and maybe the legs can start going down because I need them to get to the ground and stop the cat's fall. And I'm gonna copy my first frame so I have this as reference as where I need to get. And we're reaching the end. So we can either have an impact frame in which my cat is touching the floor, or we can just directly have a really big squash, like my cat getting, stopping the fall on the ground. You can play around with all the frames that you want. There's not a formula, there's not a specific formula for animation. It's all up to you and up to experimentation. So I want to make him even more squash, just to see what we get. And I can squash the ears, and now we can start making him go back to normal. You know, and we can add a tiny overshoot as he settles down, because that also adds more naturality, as I told you before. So instead of just making the drawings closer to the final one, we can go past this, the last frame. We can go past it a little bit. Same, we can stretch the legs a little bit and make the arms point down. Same with the ears. Got the face. And now that we did the overshoot, now we can start getting back to the final drawing. There we go. And this will be our kitty settling down towards the final frame. There we go. Oops. Okay. Let's see what we got. I'm doing this like straightforward because there's no time to take it. Yay! And now our little kitty looks more alive than ever. It has more personality. You can see the volumes of the character shift a little bit, but not too much that it feels unrealistic. Of course, you can always pay more attention to the drawings and like be more careful with some stuff. But if you just want to play around, you want to animate something and you want to make it look more natural, I think all the things that I told you today will help you to get to that point. Because with this jump, we basically use all the things that we did before. First, we anticipated, we are squashing our character, then we are easing in because we are getting to the next frame really slowly. We're also stretching our character, and then we are using a tiny overshoot so it settles down more naturally. And this is what I mean when I say that you're going to use these principles every time that you animate. Because every time that you want to animate something, you have to think about all of this. And I know maybe right now it sounds like too much, like you have to memorize a lot of stuff, but it's not like that. Like right now, these are just fancy names. You don't have to know the names. You just have to understand them in your brain and say, okay, I don't want my cat to feel too stiff. What can I do? Oh, I can squash and stretch. I can just play with the volumes. I can play with the spacing to make the movement more realistic. You can even learn from real life. You can move around. I don't know, whatever elements you have, plushies or toys or anything, just don't forget to have fun and just do something. Try not to be scared. I know facing a new project can be really scary, but just try to start. Like I don't know where this cat is gonna go. I just thought it's gonna be like a really fun thing, a simple character for you to see today. And I think I'm talking too much. We already 10 minutes over the time limit.
I do have
But
a question for you, Mika.
yes, please.
So, just for people who are interested and can't decide between the intermediate and beginners course, even though you're talking about the really foundational stuff, this is just a very small portion of the class, right? So, can you
Mhm.
let them know, like, maybe what you do in the beginners course versus the intermediate course?
Yes. Well, these concepts are basically just the first two classes. In the beginners class, we have 10 weeks, which means we have 10 classes to learn. And these are just the first two. In the next classes, we also see walk cycles. Walk cycles can get really complex. We have two classes for walk cycles. First, we see like the basic stuff about walk cycles, and then we see like more complex stuff like running cycles. We also see like animal walk cycles because four-leg animals are way harder than two-leg people. And we also learn more about acting. because yeah, right now our character is just jumping and moving, but it doesn't have too much of a personality. So also one of the last things I teach in the beginners class is acting, because you need to put some personality into your characters. They have to move in a way that fits your character design. And we also learn about lip sync, so you can make a full acting sequence of your character. Maybe you can choose a voice recording or something and make your character act and also talk. So this is just a small portion of what we see in the beginners class. So if this is already the things you want to learn, and you want to learn even more like walk cycles, lip sync, and acting, I will recommend you to take the beginners class, because then in the intermediate class, I'm not going to go back to these concepts. We are going to use them, of course, but in the intermediate class, we start with character turnaround. And first, we see how to make a turnaround to keep the volumes of the character solid. And but then we completely move to animating that turnaround with your character personality. And the intermediate class is way more focused on acting, because there's a lot of tiny things about acting with your character that you need to be more conscious about. And we also see dynamic camera movements, in which you will have to have your horizontal line always in mind, because yeah, right now there's no background. But when you are animating something with a background and the camera moves around and pans and goes up and down and whatever, you need to have your character in model, and you need to really think where your character is placed around the whole camera movement. I also um, teach the difference about fast and slow movements, because it's not the same to animate an action sequence in which your characters move around and you have different timings, different spacing. You have to focus on different stuff that in slow movements. For slow movements, for example, you have to have the model sheet of your character. The character always has to be in model, and there's some tips and tricks I give you during this class for you to keep your model consistent, because this is really important. I also teach about hookup scenes, in which you will have to hook up one animation shot with the next one, thinking about the timing of the two sequences. Is not the same to animate just one single thing than to have a camera cut and then move to another thing. For example, here, if we have our tiny cat, maybe the camera changes to a zoom of the face of the cat. We have to keep in mind how the previous scene is going to move to the next one. And the final exercise for the intermediate class is to make a full animation sequence of more than one shot for you to hook up with, use camera, dynamic camera movement, fast and slow movements. It's way more complex than the beginner's one, but it's also way more free, because you should already know all these basic concepts, but you can apply them more freely to whatever you want to animate. And so yeah, I will recommend people to have the fundamentals um like way deep in their brain, because they're gonna need them. They're gonna use it, and I'm not gonna go back to teach this more simple stuff. This is why I wanted this demo to be like some kind of refreshment. Like if you want to take the intermediate class, you will be like, okay, maybe I can animate just a character jumping, to keep those concepts running in your head, to be like, okay, yeah, anticipation is this, ease in and out is this, squash and stretch, just keep those concepts in your brain, practice them because you are gonna need them for the intermediate class.
Somebody asked in the intermediate class, will you be going like over effects?
The I'm gonna go like a tiny portion of one of the last classes about effects, but no too deeply because effects is a really big subject. And honestly, if you're really interested in effects, I would recommend you do a full course of just effects because every single element has their different things. Like, for example, fire moves in a way, but like lightning moves completely different. Water, it's way more fluid and it tries to follow along of the recipient that you have. So effects, it's it's way bigger than what I can teach along with all the things I'm already teaching in the intermediate class. But for the last assignment, you will have 3 weeks. And in one of those weeks, I'm going to make like a tiny class about effects, mostly just tips and tricks about, for example, if you want to add effects to this little cat, it will be okay. Maybe I can add like small smoke effect when he lands. And I'm just gonna give a few tips and tricks for you to make like that effect that follows along with your character more fluid and easier. But it's not particularly an effects kind of class. I will really, really recommend you to do another effects class because effects is a lot of things. Anyway, I'm gonna give a lot of references and links for you to see effects that you like. Maybe you can learn from them because when it comes to effects, you really need to see a lot of reference. Like you, not only in real life, but people who already utilize all those effects, and you have to find what you like, what it works, and what you like. The it's two sides of the same coin because something could be really amazingly animated, but if you don't like it, you're not gonna copy that. So you gotta find the things that you like and you have to reference them in your work for you to find your own voice. But yeah, it's gonna be just a tiny thing for effects, but it's not gonna be too focused on that. I'm gonna be focused more on giving feedback for your homework because I think the animation really needs some one-on-one feedback because it's what you bring to the class, the things that are gonna make you be better. Because the more things you do, the more your brain will understand these basic concepts and all the things you're gonna use to make a graded animation. I hope that answers the question. Angela, are
Yes,
you there?
sorry, I had to find the unmute button, but yes, that did. Thank you. I think that was Nixon's question, so that was really great.
Awesome.
Yeah, but so basically, you guys could see the difference between what an intermediate class is and a beginner's course. And I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to show, Mika.
um,
Does anyone have any questions for you?
no.
If you guys do, yeah, you can type it out and I can relay it to Mika.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, someone's typing.
We'll wait. We'll wait. But
Grace,
that.
thanks because you're the best.
Thanks. And well, don't forget, guys, that seats are limited. And that allows me to focus more on feedback. Classes are mostly 1 hour 30 and 2 hours of feedback, so I can really try to push you to your limits. No, but really, I just want you to get better. If you're passionate about animation, I just really want you to be able to animate just the things that are on your mind. It's the same thing with drawing. You know, when you're gonna struggle at first when you try to draw something that you have in your head and you can't use your hand the same way you use your brain. It's frustrating and annoying, and that happens with everything. That happens to me all the time in animation. But the more things I do, the more I practice, the more I just enjoy animating, the easier it is for me to translate whatever I have on my brain to the screen. And for me, that I love storytelling, I think it's an amazing tool to know how to animate. Like for me, it just helps me to bring my stories to life and my characters to life. It's like I want to be more than just an animator. I want to be more than just someone who draw. I want to be more than just someone who writes. I kind of want to be everything. But knowing animation, it's a tool for me to show other people what is in my brain. And I want to help you do the same. I want to help you bring your characters to life, your stories to life. Anything you want to show your work, you need to have tools to show them. And I think animation is a really fun and great tool to do that.
I 100% agree. It taught me so much. Yeah. Cool. Well, everybody's just complimenting you that your past students. So, and then
Oh,
intermediate students are just saying they're really excited. So I don't think anybody really has any questions right now.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tiny demo. And I hope you learned something. And well, of course, you can always um, DM me on Discord or Instagram if you have any questions about classes or animation in general. You can reach out to me. And well, I hope I was clear. Sorry if I was going too fast, but as you could see, 1 hour sometimes is not enough. There's a lot of things to teach, but I hope what I told you was clear. And if you uh, animated along with me and you have a jumping character you want to show, you can send it on Discord. I will love to see it.
Yeah, you guys should post it in the special event chat. And I know Sam did one, but yeah, you guys should post whatever you want here later. Thank you so much, Mika.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, hope to see you guys in class and have a nice day.
Yeah, have a nice day, everyone. Hope to see
Cool.
you. Hope to see you soon in March.